fate of more than this world depends on her.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the newest series to hit HBO, and that is His Dark Materials. Tell me in the comments below, what did you think about the first episode, whether you loved it or you hated it. I'd love to hear any opinions. And also, I'd like to remind you guys, I do more than just TV show reviews. I also talk movies and theme parks in the Orlando area, so don't forget to consider clicking on that subscribe button. But in the meantime, let's talk His Dark Materials. Episode 1, titled Lyra's Jordan, orphan Lyra's world is turned upside down by her long-absent uncle's return from the north, while the glamorous Mrs. Coulter visits. Before giving you my quick thoughts on the episode, a bit of a background on how I feel about this whole book series. I grew up with it. I read some of the first books when I was in school, and I saw the movie in 2007, and I had no idea they would ever make a series out of it. And this is going back to when I first saw The Golden Compass in 2007. I did not like that movie. I was kind of disappointed in it. And I remember when it was first being released, I remember reading the book and learning about the lithiometer and all these different characters and the demons, and I thought it'd be fun. And this was during the same time the Chronicles of Narnia was coming out. So you have all these children's books that I grew up with being made into movies, and it was a total disappointment for me. And then we fast forward about 12 years later, and now we're getting a show on HBO. I was really skeptical when I heard they were making this, and this is around the same time I heard they were making shows like Watchmen, and we had Westworld season 3 coming out. So all these shows I was really interested in, and I'm thinking, okay, let's give this one a shot if I'm watching all these other shows. And I have to say, this episode really surprised me. Now, I couldn't help watching this episode. I kept comparing it to the movie, and you got to keep in mind, anything that's made into a TV show or a movie, if there was a version of it beforehand, you're going to see bits of resemblance between the first version and the newer version. But everything that was made in this show, I feel, was far better than what they had in the 2007 version. And I'm talking the characters, I'm talking about the material that was put into just this one episode. It's only 1 hour. The movie was like an hour and 40 something minutes, and they crammed so much into that one movie. And this is a whole book series, and what you get in this one episode is a lot of information, but it's spread out in such an organized way that you don't get too overwhelmed with what's going on. And even the information that you're given, even if you're not familiar with the book series, you're going to get more information as we get through the next few episodes. But it was done in such a way that it felt I was watching an entirely new story, even though I was somewhat familiar with it. And speaking of all the information that we're given, it does start off in a nice way. The intro giving you a bit of a description, kind of a summary, call it a synopsis if you want, on what this whole series is about. It talks about demons, how each human has one. It talks about how there's this special girl, there's a prophecy, and we're obviously foreshadowing to Lyra. And it also talks about this concept, dust, and what that entails. And we hear about these things throughout the episode. You learn about the lithiometer in this episode as well. So for someone that's unfamiliar with any of this, who've never read the books or never even seen the Golden Compass movie, you're going to be very confused, but you're going to be intrigued still, because it's foreshadowing everything that we'll be seeing throughout the next few weeks. So it's a good way for the people that made this show. They hook you in because you're really interested to see what's going on and find out the answers to the many questions that you have. Once we're through this little intro description, you are introduced to Lord Asriel and Lyra, and Lyra's a baby at the time, and it tells the story of how he took her in to save her. 12 years go by, and you see this relationship between the both of them. And I love James McAvoy, and I loved him ever since I've seen him in the movie Wanted, and he plays a great Professor X. I loved him in Split. Anything he does is great, and the role he plays here, Daniel Craig played him in the movie, but I feel James McAvoy played it even better, because it's almost like he's going against his type of acting. He's playing someone that's kind of a jerk, especially to Lyra, the way he treats her, because he's only after one thing, and he doesn't really care what she wants, because she wants adventure. She's that type of girl with that type of energy. And when you see her grown up, when she's 12 years old, she's running around the castle, around the college, and it takes me back also to the movie, because that's how the film started out as well. And Lyra's played by Daphne Keane, another great actress. If you've seen Logan, she was magnificent in that movie, and I was waiting to see what else can we see her in. And I was so glad to see her in this type of show, because she's kind of the central character in this, and they both have great chemistry together. And it's funny because these two characters were also in the X-Men movies, but they never actually worked together. So it was great to see them and see how they acted off each other. But within their time together in this episode, you see how there's certain moments where she's hiding in the cupboard and she's spying on him, or through the window she witnesses him almost getting poisoned by the wine that the master put into the wine. And she's also spying on him when he's giving that presentation on the concept of dust, which is another thing. People will be like, what's this thing of dust? And they talk about the city and the clouds and the sky, and this is things that we have no idea what they're talking about, but we'll get answers to. But just seeing how these two interact with each other, I love that the most in this episode. And there are other things that happen as well. Of course, we are introduced to this Egyptian society. It's this group of people, and it's kind of like their own religion, because we're open to this moment where it's almost like a bar mitzvah, I guess you can call it. And there's this boy there, Tony Costa, and he's going from child to man, and it's this whole ceremony just for him because his demon has now settled as a hawk. And it's a special moment for all of them, reaching that point in that time of the boy's age. And we're also introduced to young Billy Costa, and he ends up getting kidnapped by this group called the Gobblers, which you'll later find out who they are. And this is a concept, this whole sequence, this is something you didn't really see in the movies. So I read some of the books, but I don't remember this. And watching the movie, I don't recall this at all. So this is something new to me, witnessing that. So you get a bit of background on these children. And as the description goes, we also are introduced to Mrs. Coulter, portrayed by Ruth Wilson. And once again, another actor that portrays this character fantastically. And it's a great introduction. It's the same way we were introduced to her in the movie, played by Nicole Kidman, which is also a great actress. She's one of my favorite actresses. But I have to say, Ruth Wilson, I think, is pulling it off a lot better than Nicole Kidman, because she is the villain, primarily, of this whole series, or one of them at least. And even I, seeing Ruth Wilson talking to the character of Lyra, I keep thinking, yes, Lyra, listen to her. She will help you find your friend Roger, which is also one of the boys that ends up being kidnapped as well. And I'm thinking, yeah, stay with her. So she's very convincing, very ruthless, very conniving, but it's manipulated to the point where I myself can still be convinced that she can actually help Lyra find her friend. And also, of course, while she is meeting with Mrs. Coulter during this whole time, Lyra is also given by one of the masters the alethiometer, which is an object that tells the truth, and she is told by the master to keep it private, to not let anyone know about it, including Mrs. Coulter. And this is another thing that foreshadows what's going to happen later on. The master is also telling other people at the college there that this girl, she is a prophecy. She is something that's going to be important later on. He's saying a lot of things that really bring out future events. Another thing I was saying about how this show hooks you in, because you want to find out what else is going on. And with somebody like Daphne Keane portraying Lyra, you really get intrigued to really see what is going to happen next. But the final moments of this episode has Lord Asriel leaving to the north, Lyra wanting to go with him. He obviously doesn't let her go. And once again, there's a distraught moment between them both. And Mrs. Coulter invites Lyra to go with her. And eventually she takes up that offer. And that's how it ends. We see her with Mrs. Coulter in, I cannot remember what the contraption is that they're in, but it's like a blimp contraption. And she's looking down as she's Egyptians on the train. And they're also leaving as well. And the final shot of this episode, from what I remember, was a cage. And I think it was Roger inside of there. Goes to the black screen, and we're given a glimpse on the next few episodes. I'm excited to see where this is going to go. 7 episodes of this season. I saw Lin-Manuel Miranda. He's going to be on the show as well, so that's going to be really exciting. So I'm really impressed with this first episode. I like where it's going. And as I said before, I was really skeptical on where it was going to go. And another thing I meant to mention before, it was the special effects. There's a lot of special effects that would go into this, being that each human has a demon and they have to be digitally created. And this is HBO, so this is something I shouldn't really be concerned about, because they have created such great shows with great production design, great visual effects, like Game of Thrones and Westworld, and now with Watchmen. And his Dark Materials has that feel of Game of Thrones in a way, but it has to have those good special effects. And I think they really nailed it with these demons. They have expression on their faces. I didn't want to compare it to this movie, but I feel like I have to. Lion King, It was an alright movie, the remake I'm talking about, but the animals did not have proper expressions to make that make them look convincing, and I lost a lot of that emotion. Here, I feel they did a lot of that by like raising little eyebrows, the way they move their mouth. It was very convincing, especially with Lyra's demon Pan, because I feel you're going to see him a lot. So it was really cool to see how they created that. But I just wanted to put that out there because that was something I was really skeptical on, but I was really impressed with what they did with the execution of it. But that was a bit longer than I thought to be a quick take on this episode, but I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on it. Don't forget, guys, to leave your comments below and tell me whether you liked or did not like this first episode, whether you're going to keep watching it or not. Thank you all so much for watching, and don't forget, consider clicking on that subscribe button so we can talk TV shows like this one, movies, and more. I'll see you later.